everyone, this is Sally with Disabled Advantage Dog Training. Today I'm walking partly for Austin's second walk of the day and partly for RSDSA's 6th annual CRPS Awareness Walk. I'm here with my friend Maddie and her dog Max, and while we're walking we're not going to be talking so much about exactly what we're doing with our dogs, but we're going to talk some about CRPS and some about service dog life, and you'll get to hear the perspective of what it's like to be the friend in someone's life with invisible disability and going everywhere with a service dog. And probably some also random stuff because we've been friends for a really long time and it's kind of hard for us to talk in straight lines. We're at a local park today, so you might also get to see how our dogs handle people passing, other dogs, and things like that. So we've got Austin and Max. Max has borrowed Austin's orange vest so he can represent for CRPS today too. But it's a little bit like wearing an oversized dress for Max because Max misplaced his orange vest very inconsiderately and poor planning for today's events. Austin is wearing red, but we've got our orange leash and he's wearing a CRPS patch on the front. My legs are still a little wobbly today and we've got storms coming, so I opted for safety over pure all orange representation. But the sentiment is certainly there. So we were trying to figure out what to talk about today that people would find interesting. And I know something that comes up the most often for people with CRPS is the struggle that we have keeping friends in our lives and people being supportive and understanding, and people not really taking the time to understand our condition or sticking around. And I've been friends with Maddie for 14 years now.
Oh God, I have to do math now?
Yeah.
I think so.
Almost 15 years in the fall.
Yep.
So if you can think back to your early years, I got injured in college and that's what started my CRPS. What do you really remember from that time, Maddie?
Well, mostly I don't feel like a whole lot changed. It was before it really picked up. I think it was there wasn't a diagnosis per se. It was still, I'm injured, this is weird, it's not the right kind of, like, something's not right with the injury, it's not getting better.
It hurts, it's purple today.
But it was still very much like I'm going to put some ice on it, I'll put some heat on it, and then we can go do something. Or, you know, I'm not going to use it as much today. Did you have a sling? I don't know.
No, I didn't have a sling. For the longest time, though, I wore a brace for carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Because my wrist hurt so much and it felt so weak and unstable.
Yeah.
But I couldn't wear a sling because at least for a year I was still working in the horse stable and riding.
Yeah.
And
good decisions all around.
I was really bad at wearing a brace too. One of my jobs was putting hay in the stalls, and I would actually keep bending my wrist in the brace to be able to throw the hay over the stall door.
Yeah.
And so I was just bad at being injured, and I'm still that way.
Which I think is why it was sort of you keep doing things, so yes, your injury is still here.
But like, I don't have any profound memories of you treating me poorly because of my injury, whereas other friends in college, I do have distinct memories of, can't you just treat it like a stub toe and put it out of your mind and get over it?
Yeah.
Or, gosh, I'm so tired of you always complaining. Can't you talk about something else other than being in pain?
Yeah.
And I just don't really have any memories of you doing that.
And I think it's it's hard for me to recall like treating you differently because I didn't view you differently. You had different problems, but like everyone, we all had problems. Like there were, you know, good days and bad days, and like not being able to do something. Okay, well, let's figure out what we can do. Like,
and do you think that that's just how you are as a person?
I think so. I think I did have a special set of circumstances. I'm not going to say that 3 times fast. When I was growing up, because I grew up with a mother who had chronic pain and was wheelchair bound. And so I was used to our sort of like weekend plans changing because, you know, either she didn't sleep well, and so we would go do something low key in the afternoon instead of in the morning. Like, it was always very flexible. And, you know, as a teenager and younger, you get frustrated with, you're like, oh, but I want to go do this thing. But I was like, all right, well, let's change it up. And so I think by college I had that sort of
maturity.
Yeah, maturity to be like, well, this is happening. It doesn't mean you don't get frustrated. I'm sure I was like, man, I really want to go do this thing, but all right.
But also, we had kind of a different friendship right off the bat. I mean, I didn't seek out Maddie. My RA was worried about me because I wasn't making friends and I wasn't really talking to anyone. And this was even before I got the CRPS. I was having a hard time adjusting from moving away from home and not knowing anyone.
Yeah.
And
not just like away from home to like a totally different state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had moved about 900 miles away from home.
Yeah.
And my RA noticed a poster on my wall from the TV show Supernatural and was like, oh, you like Supernatural? And I said yes. And he said, well, season 6 is starting, you know, on Friday or Thursday, whatever day they used to be on. And he's like, me and my friends are getting together and we're going to have a watch party. Do you want to come with us? And I said, sure. Yeah. Partly because he was really insistent and wouldn't take no for an answer.
Like a vague threat.
Yeah. And also because I didn't have a TV in my room and I wanted to watch the episode. And
yeah.
it was better to watch season 6 with friends than by yourself screaming at the TV. And so it felt weird at first because they were all older than me.
Yeah.
You guys were all. I was a freshman.
Full, like year.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more, but yeah.
But they became my new friend circle.
Yeah.
And I attached to Maddie better than the other two.
I don't know what that says about me.
Yeah.
But.
I don't know. And we're still watching, even though it's ended, we're still watching Supernatural together.
Yeah.
15 years later. She couldn't get rid of me. I convinced her to get a dog. And
to train that dog.
And that's who's with us today. But that was pretty much what we did together, was we either watched Supernatural or just hung out and like played video games. And so it was never, I don't think we were ever really stressing my CRPS arm.
Yeah. And like,
because you weren't.
Usually we were busy with other things because we were still in the
horse program. Yeah.
And I was doing theater and art and things like that. So we both had like heavy schedules. So usually if we did hang out, it was much like, hey, the ground sounds good.
Yeah. Sitting down sounds nice. And I do have vague memories of being in a cafeteria and you saying, hey, how's your arm today? And I'd say, well, it hurts a lot. I don't know what to do. But then we'd just carry on with the day. And that's still very much our relationship. And I think that's what has made it work, too.
Yeah.
Is that when it's a problem, you're willing to make a big deal. But it's also not a major, you've never made me feel like a burden.
Yeah.
Or that I should just shut up and get over it.
Yeah.
Maddie also taught me about baseball so that I was able to get a job shooting baseball or photographing baseball on my campus. And that kept me busy when I couldn't ride horses anymore. But I don't remember you coming to any of my games. Like, you came to the first one to teach me what was going on and what to take photos of, and then you never came again.
I feel like they were always at like inconvenient times. Because like it was usually either we had a work weekend for theater for set building, or they were like in the evenings, and I was like, I could also just lay in bed, have fun.
We also worked for a little while in the marketing department together.
Yeah.
And we're told to go photograph boring stuff together, like meetings and events.
Photos. That still gets me to this day.
Yeah.
Shoot it at a diagonal angle. Don't shoot straight. Okay.
Be artsy with it. There's only so many ways you can be artistic with somebody talking.
Oh man.
But photography really strained my arm.
Yeah.
And definitely all the hours shooting baseball. Being 3 hours long and shooting pretty much nonstop. And just the weight of the camera.
Yeah.
But rather helpfully and terribly, the head of the marketing department, and then the head of the athletic department, and then the baseball coach, all sort of teamed up and strongly persuaded the healthcare team for athletics to give me ice packs.
Yeah.
I think some colorful language might have been used, but I wasn't there, so I can't verify that. I just know they, forgive the pun, went to bat for me.
Oh my god.
I know. It's just right there. They, technically, being not an athlete, equestrians were not considered athletes. I wasn't allowed to have access to the athletic trainers who gave out ice or did PT with the athletes. But I did so much work for the baseball team that they adopted me. And then anything I needed, Coach made sure that it happened, which I really appreciated it. And unfortunately didn't realize until many years later that all of those wonderful giant ice packs that they saran wrapped to my body made my CRPS spread faster and shot out my arm. Felt good at the time, but it was actually super bad. And then you graduated, and I steadily got worse, and friends got fewer. I also just learned to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I started having teachers tease me about it too, which was really shitty. Or I would ask for accommodations, but because I didn't have a diagnosis or I wasn't confirmed disabled, I wasn't allowed accommodations. And once I quit riding, most of the equestrian department called me a coward and shut me out for not being willing to ride through the pain, which is historically a bravery thing. It's a thing you do when you're an equestrian, is you get bucked off, you get kicked in the head, you break your leg, you get back on and ride.
Horse. Don't let fear win.
And I was in so much pain that I actually had an equestrian teacher come to me and say, your body's changing. Like when you ride, you're in so much pain that you're curling up and falling over on the horse, and it's changing the way your horse is moving. And that for me was really the final straw of like, okay, well, I don't want to do damage to the horse I'm riding because I can't hold myself up. And once I quit riding, I basically lost a lot of people in my life. So Maddie graduated because she's a year ahead of me, and I didn't see her for a while, But we still talked.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely drifted a bit at that
Yeah.
time, because, like, again, I was dealing with trying to pretend I was an adult and get a job and all that sort of stuff. And you still had classes and everything going on, so.
And without weekly,
before, like, FaceTime and stuff was a big thing, and before, like, I don't think the signal at William Woods was good. There wasn't like Wi-Fi calling yet. It was just back in the dark ages.
back in the dark ages, and also, guys, I got real mean for a few years. I was in a lot of pain. People were bullying me left and right, and I got meaner as a result.
Yeah.
And that also cost me some friendships. I imagine it was harder to talk to me because I just didn't. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't know it was safe to talk about.
And you still hadn't figured out what it was.
No.
And so I feel like whenever I would get a text message or like a Facebook whatever, I don't know what we did on Facebook back then, but I didn't have anything to suggest for you.
Yeah.
And so it was very much like I'm sorry, this sucks. Like,
yeah, and we called it an injury for 5 years, which looking back on it is so stupid.
Like, this is how injuries operate, right?
Maddie was still away for most of training and starting to work with Robbie. So Maddie helped some with training Robbie, but has helped definitely more with Austin.
Yeah, I moved back in 2015, early 2015, I think April.
Yeah.
I moved back to Ashland, so I was closer. And then we started picking back up again, because I'm just bad with distance too. If I don't go somewhere often enough, and it's just messaging and things, like, I have to work pretty hard to maintain that. So it helped moving back too for us to pick up more of a relationship again.
Agreed. Now, one thing that I constantly run into is I actually have a few friends who are within reasonable driving distance of where I live. But Maddie's the only person who is willing to continually drive to my house, which is about a 40-minute drive, 50-minute drive out, and 50 minutes back. Now, granted, we do spend the entire day together. Like, we make it last.
Yeah.
But no one else is willing to do that. And we don't do it every day. It's like every 2 weeks or something like that. But why is it not a problem for you? Because, like, other people come up with all sorts of excuses, like a busy schedule, or, oh, it's so far, or can't you meet me? I can't drive anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked driving, so that if I'm driving on a highway, it doesn't seem like it's as far to me. But that's sort of always been how we've met, is that it's just a distance. Because even when I would come in for shows and stuff in theater when you were still in college, it was a 2-hour drive. But I was there for a whole weekend to meet and stay with people and stuff. And then I think...
So pattern training.
Yeah, pretty much. And, like, I think the shortest time that we've spent together,
Yeah. I had no idea that guy was coming up on my right, and he just about clipped me. That would have been incredibly bad for the CRPS and just people in general.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Good boy. Well handled, dogs.
Yeah, good job, boys. That's a quick glimpse at the quality of socialization training you can get with Disabled Advantage.
It'd be nice if you guys could let us know, because I bet that you heard that.
Well, he gets corrected for turning his head, though, so...
But yes, so pattern training essentially is what worked for us. And I think the shortest time that I came out was for like 4 hours, but usually it was to like help out.
Yeah.
Because Adam had his shoulder surgery or something, or
oh gosh, that was so incredibly helpful.
Yeah. And so like that was a short-term thing of like, it's a lot of driving, but it's not, this isn't going to be our everyday. Like,
no.
It was very much like there was a goal at the end of it, and things would essentially go back to normal.
Well, and it's also just like, I've been able to ask Maddie to come over and wash dishes.
Yeah.
And that's not something that, like, I know that's something that's really hard for a lot of us with chronic illness. And she never hesitated and even offered, especially at stressful times, like when my husband's had surgery, or I last year when my knee just about blew apart.
Yeah.
But like being able to ask for, hey, can you come over and help with dishes and help change the sheets and walk Austin for me? And there's not really anyone else in my life that I feel even remotely safe being able to ask of that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because your answer is always either going to be, damn, I'm so sorry, I'm going to St. Louis that weekend, or I'm busy, or I'm sick.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Not, why do you need help?
And usually it's, if I am sick or if I am going to St. Louis, like, hey, does this day work? I'll have an alternate
yeah.
in mind.
I never have to explain why I need help. I just have to ask for it.
Yeah.
And that's been so much more relaxing than in anybody else.
Yeah.
So what did you think do you remember having any thoughts when I finally got diagnosed?
Well, I didn't know shit about it. I mean, I didn't know bleep about it. So, I mean, there was that initial relief of like, oh, it has a name. There's something. Like it's not just going to be a mystery forever.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what the answer is necessarily to this, but there is something. Like, you're not just injured.
Right.
Perpetually. So I think there was that sort of like relief of figuring it out, having an answer, and then, okay, now we go forward. Like now we know what to, well,
we didn't know what to do.
Expect, but know that we, I don't know. I remember being kind of hopeful in that time of like,
that's so cute.
I know, right? I was like, we'll find a doctor. We have what it's called now. Somebody's gonna do their research and participate as a healthcare member.
That did not happen.
No, not at all.
We got some fun stuff coming up here. We accidentally came to the park on an event day because we're good at planning. No, let's just forge on ahead. I think they can handle it.
Okay.
If they can't, I'm a terrible trainer.
Well, Max is on rest and slightly neurotic, but we'll get there. But yeah, I feel like that was the initial setting, and so it became more of like a, hey, I heard about this or whatever, and I was able to say more of like supportive things. I don't know.
But I feel like I got the impression that you read things I posted on Facebook about the condition, and you read when I shared stuff.
Yeah, I felt like I could actually participate with input instead of being like, this just really sucks.
Yeah. Let's cut in the grass and cut this corner off.
Okay.
What were your initial thoughts when Max, get out of the way. When I told you we were going to get a service dog? Or when I first told you about Robbie, if you remember. It's so long ago.
Yeah, it was. And then it just became such a staple. I don't know if it's... Like the way that you presented it was I remember being like, okay, a little bit of like, what is it? Rose-colored glasses almost.
Yeah.
Of like, great, you're gonna have a tool. You'll feel more independent. You'll feel safer. Like, this is awesome. And then it was just like a stream of, oh my God, this dog is terrible. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm in so much pain. I want to take him back.
And so I was like, maybe I don't like this. And yeah, that it was, I mean, it got better.
Obviously.
But yeah, I think there was that initial, like, gonna be great. Oh God, no. Oh wait, okay.
Are we crossing the street?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're parked on this side anyway. Somewhere up that way.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Austin, Star. Good boy. I guess in the grass again? I don't... Pass. Good. Max, walk faster.
It's all good. Everybody was invited.
They take big steps. Did you get to help with the beginning? Or did you come help proof Robbie?
I think I helped proof because I remember acting a fool mostly.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of like, I'm gonna go do heel patterns. It was very much like, hey, did you run past him screaming? Like, sure.
Yeah, she very much got to jump in at the fun part of he knows all of his stuff. We just need to test him against all of the craziness we can possibly imagine. And she was perfect at that. And so Robbie didn't really like people, which made him a good service dog.
Yeah.
He was very people neutral. But he absolutely adored Maddie. He would do this really fun wiggle tap dance every time she came over. And I have a picture of him laying on the porch looking at her at eye level and just wagging his tail, just looking at her, so happy that she existed. And it also made training more valuable because all he wanted to do was play with her. And so it was great training for ignoring him at certain times, or ignoring her at certain times. So how was it for you when we started actually taking a dog everywhere with us? Were you excited to take a dog everywhere with us?
Yeah, I think so. The problem was that he was so well trained, I didn't get that experience of a shitty service dog. Of having to be like, oh God, there's kids, like, dog's not gonna sit under the table, we're gonna have to focus on him. Like, it was very much, why are you so loud? It was very much like, there was a slow build. Like, we didn't immediately just go into a busy restaurant.
Yeah.
But, like, we went and ate on a patio on an off day, essentially.
Or at earlier or weird dinner times,
Yeah.
like eating at 5 instead of eating at 6.
Yeah, and I was like, well, food is food, so I will eat. That didn't bother me.
What was it like for you with Austin? Because Austin was a completely different experience.
Yeah. I think Austin was a little harder just because I was more there for the shit show of the start.
Yeah, guys, owner training, I don't think it actually goes up. I think it's just a sidewalk. Austin, up. Yeah, so owner training, when you're starting with a puppy, is a shit show in its own way. And then when you start with a dog who's already close to 80 pounds, it's a different kind of shit show.
Yeah.
And it's one where I frequently had an 80-pound dog slamming into me.
Yeah.
And so for the people who genuinely care about me, that was a lot harder to watch and put up with.
Yeah. And like, I think, you know, Adam had kind of gone through it with Robbie more so because he was there. But like, being my first time Yeah, I didn't like Austin for a while.
Nobody liked Austin for a very long time. Everybody thought he was cute, but if you watched me work with him and you saw how much pain I was in, most people did not like Austin.
Yeah.
And we actually joked about it for a while in my massage therapist's office. I'd come in like super, super tense, and she could say something like, okay, I need you to think about something relaxing. And I'd think about Robbie or Max, and I would instantly relax.
The fact that Max
And then-
made you relax.
Yeah, and then she'd say, okay, I need you to think about something stressful. And I would just think about Austin. And she said it felt like my whole body would just light itself on fire.
Yeah.
Just thinking about training Austin. But now, he's an amazing service dog. It's just that first 3 months really,
Yeah.
was pure torture. Because he didn't know anything, and he was learning, and he was bumbling, and he was a puppy.
Much
And
more happy than Robbie.
oh, so happy.
Robbie took shit mostly seriously.
Yeah, Austin took nothing seriously
Oh, no.
for the longest time. And that made it hard to train too.
Yeah. So I think that was the big difference between Austin was actually being there. And like, in a different way, he ruined plans. Because it became very much like a, oh, do you want to go out for lunch? I mean, sure.
So we're back in the car. After our walk, we had to take a break because it started raining on us, and driving and talking in actual messy town is really stressful. So we waited until we got back on the interstate to actually resume this video. And Austin is being super cute, sticking his head beside my seat a little bit. That's usually how he rides in her car, is he fidgets in between sitting up and leaning against the door. He likes the truck better because he can sit up and look out the window while also not supporting his body weight. And in her car, she can't do that. So we left off with talking about her perspective with me working with a service dog. And one thing I do want to stress and just remind everybody is that one, she doesn't hate Austin anymore, and two,
Yeah.
it wasn't because Austin was a bad dog. Austin wasn't biting me, he wasn't attacking me, he wasn't a bad dog. Okay,
He wasn't doing it on purpose necessarily.
and yeah, he wasn't doing anything on purpose. It's just because I have CRPS, where the CRPS means that everything I experience is a pain signal. And so every time Austin makes a mistake, I feel it in the leash, or when he body slams me, or when he didn't take stuff seriously, he used to run to the end of the leash really fast all of a sudden. And so I would be, focused on one thing, and suddenly he was running to the end of the 4-foot leash, and he was perfectly content to slam himself at the end of the 4-foot leash over and over again because he just didn't care. And getting him to care about stuff was really hard, but every time he did that, it took a very real physical, severe pain toll on me. Another thing was when we taught him heel, he did not like the rigid nature of it. He did not like going in a straight line. He did not like paying attention for long periods of time. And he did like looking at all of the stuff. And so he would frequently just turn his head to look at stuff. And by turning his head, he would also swing his whole body into the side of my left knee. And that was enough pressure and movement to knock me over sideways. He would often get distracted and end up behind my legs and then walk. He'd try to either go in between my legs, or he would walk behind me enough that he would step on the back of my heels, or he would step in between my feet and then knock into the back of my knees and push me over forward. And he got in a habit of doing that every other week. I would fall every other week reliably. And so that's why all of us kind of hated Austin for the beginning of his training, just because he was such a happy bumble bear idiot as a puppy. And this was when he was about 15 months old until he was about 2 years old. It took him a while to kind of grow out of that whole idiot mode, and that is still why we call him the bumble bear, because sometimes he just, like, this was the dog who we'd be on a walk and I would think everything was fine, and then he'd see a butterfly and would just dart into the ditch to check out this butterfly. And that's what I was trying to walk as someone with full body pain, full body disability. Yes, I'm a dog trainer, but that's another reason why I don't train other people's dogs hands-on, because that initial stage of getting the dog over all their crap is just so brutal for my body with CRPS. And it's fine with my own dogs-ish, because they then learn about my pain, they learn my tells, I learn more about them, we learn how to work together as a team, work through the pain, and all of that stuff. And they also get a lot of time just laying beside the bed on the floor while I lie in agony, which is great for their training too. But if I was trying to do that with other people's dogs, I think I would be worse disabled. Do you have any thoughts on that, Maddie?
Yes. I agree.
Would you like to elaborate? Like,
yes, it would be terrible.
Even when I helped you train Max,
yeah.
Like, what do you remember from teaching Max when we first got him from the shelter? Max is not a service dog, to be clear. Max is a pet dog.
Yes.
He's about 50 pounds.
55.
55.
Yeah.
Yeah, that extra 5 really matters.
Yeah, when we first got him, we knew he was a polar. And every time, the first thing he did when he walked in the room to meet him was pull. He was very happy about people. Somewhat happy about dogs. I think he was kind of confused as to what dogs were. I don't know. He was more of a people person. And just a lot of wiggly energy.
He was also super okay, so compared to Robbie, he was low to the ground for me. And so Max fell in this perfect little window of time where I'd had Robbie for a few years, dealt with Robbie's BS, got in a swing of working with a dog who was very, very gentle with me. And then Maddie got Max, and I taught her how to train him. And then we got Austin, and Max was mostly trained, mostly over the BS, and then we brought Austin in the picture. And so at one point we did have 3 dogs that we were trying to deal with and manage every time we hung out. But I remember I held Max's leash, I don't know if it was the first day or that first week or something. I held him for a minute, and the force that he pulled almost pulled me over. I almost fell down holding.
When we first went for a walk.
So that would have been the first day.
Yeah, the very first day, because we brought him home, and I had to go inside for something, but we wanted to immediately take him on a walk.
Yes, because the way I teach is you adopt a dog, you come home, you take it for a walk, so it gets a chance to get its wiggles out and go to the bathroom, not in your house, and then you do a house tour with the dog on leash, so the dog can learn where they can go and where they can't go, and you start practicing doorway manners, and then crate work. And this is a very specific order, so I was like, oh, it's fine, I'm strong, I can totally handle this dog. He's small compared to Robbie, and I had Robbie off leash just waiting, and yeah, Max was so strong, and so his center of gravity was so much lower than Robbie's that he did almost pull me over because he was pulling so strong.
Yeah.
And it was a shock to my system, because my system had gotten out of the swing of essentially being beat up by a dog, just being a dog.
Yeah, I think it was that, and then his tail is a fucking menace. He's so happy, and it shows in his butt, and his tail is a little thick whip that's right at like shin knee level.
Yes. So Max, the best way to describe Max's tail, in my opinion, is we're on a vacation, sort of, and I had what I thought was a no-tip mug on the coffee table because I try to drink out of things that can't easily be tipped over because my hands shake. And my mug was on the table, and Max walked by and was wagging his tail and just hit the mug perfectly and knocked it off the table and a little ways across the room even.
Yeah.
And coffee went everywhere, and now I'm very careful. There is no such thing as a no-tip mug around Max.
The best story that my dad likes to tell and blame Max for is the fact that he had to get a new computer more recently than he would have liked, because we were sitting chatting and we had I had a glass, a margarita, so sticky liquid. There wasn't much of it left, but Max sure as shit just whacked it, and most of it went onto the keyboard of a laptop that then we cleaned up, and over time the keys got more and more stuck to the keyboard. And yeah, that was Max's moment with Dad. He was like, God damn it, this dog. But yeah, so he's just right at that coffee table level to just swipe it clean.
Yeah. I did get, I made a video a few days or weeks. Time is hard for CRPS. But I made a video recently about melding service dogs and pet dogs, and I did sort of get some say in how Max was trained so that he is safer for me to be around than other people's dogs, because he was trained in the disabled advantage way, and a lot of that training is based on building a dog that is safe for someone with CRPS and other types of chronic pain to be around. There are still times where Max is difficult to be around because he's not Austin, he's not Robbie. I feel it feels foreign to be around him. I know his commands, I don't know his nonverbals. I get those confused a lot.
Yeah.
Some of her words mean different things for Austin, and for the most part, some of our words are the same. So sometimes she'll give Max a command, or I'll give Austin a command, and then they both do the command, which is fine. But it's hard to be around him sometimes because he is so happy and he does pull on the leash.
He's also bony.
He's very bony.
Yes.
And like when I say that he pulls on the leash, he doesn't pull on the leash like he used to. And he doesn't pull on the leash the way a healthy person can even tell he's pulling on the leash. But when I hold his leash, he moves differently than how Austin has been trained to move and respond on the leash. And so holding Max's leash does sometimes inadvertently cause flares because he wasn't trained to work with me and I wasn't trained on working with him. If that makes sense. Like, I taught her how to train him, but she's the one that actually did it. And so I can't handle him. Did it several times today, but he doesn't follow quite exactly the same rules that Austin does. And so sometimes, like, he likes to be in the kitchen when I cook dinner. And sometimes it's really adorable. And sometimes it's a trip hazard.
It's kicked out.
And he gets kicked out at that point. But I was fortunate in that Maddie wanted a dog and I needed a first client. And so it worked out. I got to have a little bit more say in how Max got, how his training got structured so that he was safer for me to be around. But also, the way that he was trained works with your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It is a very very different thing, because there are things that just because I am friends with you and do a lot of things with you does not mean that I will ever have the same sensitivity to stuff with Max that you do. It's just the way it works. You can't live in that constant state of trying to be oversensitive to things. You end up being triggered by too many things yourself then. So there, yeah, he is not as soft, he is not as
aware,
slow sometimes. Yeah, like there's a certain slowness that Austin will approach things with if he isn't sure about something. Whereas Max is like, your hand is there, I want your hand on my ears, thank you, hello.
Yeah.
Like, and like, he's the one thing that you do like about Max is he will help with deep pressure, because he's a little bit less bulky than Austin.
So
and very much a snuggle bug.
There was one day last year.
Was it last year?
Sometime recently, where Robbie was gone, but we had Max and Austin. Where Max actually did a task because Austin couldn't do it for me. We went on a walk, and then I got really deeply cold.
It's a hot day, and so then we came inside to try and temperature regulate, and
I got too cold, and the best place for me to lay and try to warm up was on Maddie's couch, but there wasn't enough room for Austin to safely lay on me. He would have had to lay directly on top of my kneecaps, which would have hyperextended them and hurt me really badly. And so we actually had Max lay on me instead, and Max's body heat warmed me up. Now that one afternoon did not make Max a service dog. But given that Max likes snuggling, was upset that I was in his spot on the couch anyways, it worked out really nicely. And Max, having a shorter coat, he produces a ton of body warmth like Robbie did. And he doesn't overheat the way Austin does. Austin can do deep cold for about 30 minutes and then gets really warm and wants to leave. And Max just wants to stay there for as long as he possibly can.
Yeah.
So there are times when Max is genuinely helpful. And there were also times, like we said, when I was first training Austin, that I was more willing to deal with Max than Austin.
Yeah, that's fair.
But again, it goes back to, like, she doesn't need a service dog. She doesn't need him to be super gentle. She doesn't need him to be quiet all the time. She's okay with his antics. She plays with him differently from how I play with Austin, because that's the life that she has with Max, and that's the life she enjoys with Max. And then I try to interact with Max, and it's a little bit terrifying every time.
I will say it does help having, like, so I live with my nieces, and they are young, under 10, but Colin is very timid and very, like, not the most confident girl, and she was very leery of Max when we first got him, because he was right at eye level with her.
Well, they were both leery of Robbie too, and Robbie was the calm, like, Robbie was statue level calm.
Yeah, which, I mean,
might have been creepy.
Didn't really have any dogs we interacted with that were wild crazy. Allie and Casey were both older. Those were my brother and sister-in-law's dogs. But with Max, when he goes to play with them, it changes. He's kind of aware now that they're not me. They're not as rough and tumble. He drops the toy instead of trying to hand it to him. Quinn is getting the confidence where she'll, like, reach her hand out to take the rope or something from him, and he lets it go. He knows he doesn't play tug with him. So yeah, he has an awareness now, but yeah, it is very different.
And I think we discovered a few years ago that so we know that we're pretty sure that I smell weird to Max, because I'm constantly in high levels of pain, so I probably smell like a stressed out animal to the dogs. We can't prove that, but science has proven it in other areas. And my dogs get used to it, and it becomes background noise unless it spikes up. But Max has also always been a little bit more on edge when he's around me, and we think it links back to that because he's not around me enough to really know what it means and what to do about it.
Yeah.
Whereas my dogs are. And I look like a big, fully functioning person. Like, I think when he's playing with the girls, he's self-handicapping a little bit the way Austin does when he plays with his Basset Hound friend.
Yeah.
And Max doesn't necessarily see me as weak. I just smell weird, but also have a certain level of authority to me.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of interesting sometimes too. I know part of this was a walk and part of it was us sitting in the car, but this is life in Missouri. Sometimes it thunderstorms, and it's the summer.
Yeah.
Are there any other thoughts you want to share about being friends with someone with CRPS?
I should have thought of something real profound or something.
Yeah, you really should have.
I think one of the interesting things is growing up with a mom who was disabled and having you in my life now, and like, I think a lot of people get so caught up that you're disabled. Oh, you clearly can't take a joke. You clearly can't, I can't be as silly with you. I can't do this or that. And that was the thing that ticked me off with Mom so much, was people would treat her with kid gloves and be like, oh, you're in a wheelchair. That must mean that you don't have the cognitive ability to keep up with what I'm talking about. And so I think it's a real privilege to essentially have the relationship with someone with a disability where you just get to be a person.
Yeah.
And I hope that awareness continues to spread that people with disabilities or people that are weirder looking like you, that they are just fucking people.
Yeah.
I don't know, the lack of approaching with a similarity as you would anybody else, whether you have a dog, whether you have a wheelchair, whether you have a cane, and just focusing on the person, that needs to be what becomes of it.
And also, you and I have spoken about this before, giving people with disabilities, like, not treating them with kid gloves, but also treating them with respect.
Yeah.
And we get so much disrespect as a service dog team. We don't have access issues, but like on our walk, I almost got run over by someone in a electric bike, and that wasn't even necessarily service dog specific. That
was just a jerk.
Just a jerk. But like, I have people crowd my space. I have people let their dogs rush into my space. I have people try and pet Austin and distract him. I have people who talk to Austin but don't talk to me. And then there are days where, like, I'm really, really struggling to stay upright or stay cognitively aware, and then people are distracting him, and it's really dangerous for me. And it is very helpful. I can't drive, which does suck, but that means that when I go out in public, I always have either Maddie or my husband with me, and Maddie's gotten very good at being kind of like a personal bodyguard, of body checking dogs and like creating space so that toddlers can't just come up and hug Austin. And it's not perfect, but there's I have noticed it was jarring when I was in a wheelchair during my knee injury and also at the zoo, that like, people really don't expect people to be disabled anywhere. They don't expect someone to be in a wheelchair anywhere, and so there's no thought to, hey, I should make sure this sidewalk is clear. Hey, I shouldn't be in someone's way. And I run into the same thing or similar thing when I'm working with Austin, is people don't move out of the way a lot to allow us a clear path to walk forward safely. And those are some things that Adam and Maddie help with sometimes, but sometimes it's just unavoidable. And so that's been a learning curve too.
I do feel like it changes a bit too, of like, I don't mind, taking out a toddler, clotheslining them as they run up or something, but I also try to make sure that I'm not taking questions, and I would be like, oh, excuse us, we're, whatever. But it's your dog, you can handle it yourself, and there are days where, yes, you're just focusing on making sure that you stay upright and we don't have any issues moving. And so in those cases, yes, I can step in, we can walk around, I'll say thank you, bye, like, whatever. But I also want you to still keep your confidence in being like, yes, I'm Sally, I'm a business owner, I do this, that, and this,
And it has been a frustrating point at times, because when we work events, if I'm sitting down, like, I'm the one wearing the dog, I say dog trainer on my shirt and everything, and I can be sitting at the front of my booth,
yeah,
ready to ask questions.
And I will look past you and me or Adam.
And they always ask Adam or Maddie questions before they ask me questions. And so sometimes I put myself at greater risk when I work events and try standing, which is bad for me to do for long periods of time. And sometimes people take me more seriously, and then other times still they see service dog beside me and they defer to the person who doesn't have a service dog beside them. So that's been interesting to experience.
Yeah. I will say that was one of the funniest things with mom being in a wheelchair.
Oh, okay.
We would go places, and I was 12 or 13, and I did look older for my age, but still, we would go in somewhere, and they would ask me a question. I'd be like, I don't know why I'm here. She brought me here. She drives me places. Don't talk to me. And then my mom would chime up and be like, actually, I need this or that. And sometimes she thought it was funny, I'm sure, but other times, yeah, it gets really frustrating that somebody won't take you seriously or doesn't think that you're the authority figure. Yeah.
I do really like, though, we've been working together and hanging out for enough time, and by working I mean like training. She's been helping me train as a distraction, and we've been going out places when Austin is working for long enough that, like, we were on a walk one time, and it was me and Adam and Maddie and Max and me and Austin, and there was another dog coming up, passing the other way, and all three of us, without talking to each other, understood that this dog was a bit unstable and we needed to protect me and Austin. And so the three of us switched up our formation, and it was like drill team or like the flight demonstrations.
Yeah.
We all just kind of fanned out without no hand signals, no words, no nothing. Just very seamlessly fanned out our formation to keep walking forward and protect all the dogs and protect me and Austin. And then grouped back together to three people walking in a line together.
And I think it was like a little while that we were like, that seemed really fluid.
Yeah. So that's been cool to see too, that it's, I've explained a lot of stuff to Maddie, but she's also just a smart person and pays attention.
I'm glad we get this on record.
And so she does, definitely the biggest benefit is that she spends so much time with me that she sees me on good days and she's seen me on bad days, and she can compare and contrast the two and hold those in her brain. Yeah. Whereas people who are far away just talk to me and they never really get a good sense of, oh, you're masking how terrible you feel. Okay. Yeah. And she's able to, I feel like you've done a good job of picking up on, you're having a hard time finding the word. I'm going to give you a sec to find it, and then I'm going to prompt you to help you get back on track, which I find really helpful. Or like, you're moving really slow today. Let's maybe just watch a movie or something.
Yeah.
And like not putting a ton of pressure on me to, let's go rock climbing or let's go do this, that, and the other. Like, we still kind of have the same friendship we had in college. We do a lot of dog training stuff together, a lot of dog walks. She helps me a lot making disabled advantage videos or doing events. But then a lot of our hanging out time is watching movies or playing Assassin's Creed together. which are very disability friendly activities.
Yeah.
So that's something I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I will say it is especially fun when both of our brains forget words in the same pace for a day.
Yeah.
When we're having fun, we're like, hey, we'll find out sometime what we were talking about. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and we just roll with it. And that's really cool too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me for our RSDSA walk and then talking about CRPS and service dog life. Hopefully people have enjoyed this conversation. If you have not, well, stay tuned for a different video. And we're gonna go rest now because now it's apparently stopped raining and is gorgeous outside now that we've left the park.
This is how it works in Missouri.
It definitely is.